When you picture ancient Athens, what comes to mind? Probably democracy, philosophy, theater, the very cradle of Western civilization. But what if I told you that behind all those marble temples and brilliant minds, there's a story of some pretty shocking contradictions? Let's start with the image we all know and love. And here it is, the Acropolis. This is the image we all have of Athens, right? Majestic, brilliant, just an absolute masterpiece of architecture. Buildings like this, they scream a society at the absolute peak of its artistic genius. But what if I told you that just a few steps away from these incredible grounds, daily life was anything but glorious? Yeah, that paints a very different picture, doesn't it? The same city that gave us the Parthenon had streets that were basically open sewers. And that is the great paradox of Athens, a city of stunning public magnificence and, frankly, private squalor. So let's dive right into this first contrast, the gleaming golden age versus its muddy, messy streets. Now get this, this isn't a description of a poor person's house. Nope, this was the home of a wealthy Athenian. Just try to imagine it. You're living in a house made of mud brick with no windows facing the street. Inside, there's no chimney, so all the smoke from cooking just hangs in the air, filling the rooms. You've got no plumbing, no running water. And when it's cold, a nasty draft just blows right through the open doorways. It's just wild to think about, especially when you see the beautiful furniture and pottery they were making. Okay, so from their physical world, let's jump into the world of the mind. How on earth did a place like this produce such incredible thinkers? Well, it all starts with their really unique approach to education. So the journey for a young boy would start with a pedagogue who was an elderly slave that would literally walk him to a private school. And there, the focus wasn't on a huge range of subjects. It was really about three core things: reading and writing, music and poetry. A really good student might be able to recite the entire Iliad and Odyssey from memory. And just as important as the mind was the body. Athletics were a massive, massive part of their training. But what's really fascinating is what's not on that list. Their traditional schools offered no math, no geography, and no science. And this huge educational gap created a perfect opening for a new, totally revolutionary kind of teacher to show up. And here you see the two competing visions for what it meant to be educated in Athens. On one side, you have the old guard, all about memorizing the classics and respecting tradition. And on the other, you have the sophists. These guys were wandering lecturers offering a radical kind of higher education. They taught public speaking, science, and here's the controversial part, they encouraged their students to question everything, even the gods. As you can imagine, this was deeply, deeply unsettling to the older generation. Now, this clash of ideas wasn't just happening in some quiet classroom. Oh no, this was a full-blown culture war, and it was playing out in the most public place you can imagine, the Athenian theater. You can see this whole conflict perfectly embodied in these two legendary playwrights. Sophocles was the traditionalist. His plays reinforced all the old beliefs, that the gods were in control and that's that. But then you had Euripides, who was a buddy of the sophists. His plays were packed with doubt and really tough questions. The old-fashioned folks, they loved Sophocles. But the young people of Athens, they were absolutely captivated by the radical new ideas of Euripides. And right in the middle of all this intellectual turmoil was one man who became the face of this new age of inquiry, Socrates. Now, he wasn't a sophist, he didn't charge for his lessons, but he was, without a doubt, the ultimate questioner. His method was, on the surface, pretty simple, but it was absolutely profound. He would just wander through the marketplace, talking to anyone and everyone, and he would just ask question after question after question. See, he wasn't trying to give people answers, he was trying to force them to really examine their own beliefs about big things, like justice, virtue, and government. To a lot of people, it felt like he was trying to tear down the very foundations of their society. But okay, here's another one of those paradoxes. While all of this intellectual and religious drama was unfolding, Athens was, at the exact same time, having an artistic explosion, creating works that would basically define beauty for the next 2,000 years. I mean, their architectural genius is just so clear in their two main styles. On the left, you've got the Doric order. It's sturdy, strong, you could say masculine. And then on the right, you have the Ionic, which is more delicate, slender, and graceful. The Athenians mastered both of these to create that iconic cityscape we all know. And right at the heart of their public life was the theater. I mean, just look at the scale of this thing. It could hold around 17,000 people.
This wasn't just a fun night out. This was a central part of being an Athenian citizen. It was a place where the entire city came together to wrestle with its biggest, most challenging ideas.
Going to a play back then would feel, well, pretty weird to us today. It was always outside, for one. All of the actors were men, and they wore these huge, exaggerated, almost grotesque masks. You also had a chorus that would sing a lot of the story, kind of like in an opera. And the comedies? Oh, they were brutal. They would openly make fun of famous people like Pericles and even Socrates, right there on stage for everyone to see. And you see this same kind of evolution happening with their sculpture too. The majestic, kind of rigid gods that were carved in Pericles' time started to give way to something new. This piece here really shows that shift. The gods start to look more like ideal humans. They're natural, they're graceful, they're at ease. Art was getting more personal, more human. But here's the tragic part. All of this genius, all this beauty and intellectual energy, it couldn't save Athens from itself. While they were busy perfecting art and philosophy, their political ambitions were leading them straight towards total disaster. 27 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how long the Peloponnesian War lasted. It was this brutal, grinding conflict between Athens and its great rival, Sparta. And it just drained the city of its money, its people, and its spirit. It all unraveled with shocking speed. The war starts, and almost right away, a terrible plague sweeps through the overcrowded city. It killed maybe a third of the population, including their great leader, Pericles. Then came a catastrophic military blunder in Sicily, where their entire fleet was just wiped out. By 404 BC, starving and broken, Athens had no choice. They had to surrender. The humiliation was absolute. Sparta made them tear down the very walls that had protected them for so long. Their powerful navy was gone. Their empire was annihilated. The Golden Age was over. But here we are, at the final and maybe the most profound Athenian paradox. Just as the city's political power was completely extinguished, its intellectual power was about to conquer the world. Just think about this for a second. In the immediate aftermath of this total military collapse, what emerges? Well, you get the first truly scientific history from Thucydides. You get the immortal dialogues of Plato, who was Socrates' student. And then you get the works of Aristotle, who would go on to categorize pretty much all of human knowledge. The city lost its empire, but its mind created a legacy that would outlast every empire that has come since. So in the end, Athens leaves us with this huge, powerful question. Their story proves that a civilization's greatest contribution might not be its power or its wealth, but its ideas. It achieved immortality not through military might, but through the unconquerable power of the human mind. And it forces us to wonder, can any civilization ever truly have both at the same time?